So for those enjoying this Kirtland's Warbler Festival, I am David Ewert, and I am presenting a short presentation on what the American Bird Conservancy, a nonprofit organization, is doing to support the maintenance of the Kirtland's Warbler after it has been delisted from its endangered status. In other words, post-delisted. The American Bird Conservancy is, as I noted before, a nonprofit organization, and it's devoted to conserving wild birds and their habitats throughout the Americas using four major approaches. One is to halt extinctions, particularly for those species that are perilously close to being eliminated from the planet. Another is to conserve habitats for a wider range of bird species, including those that are close to extinction. Another is to eliminate threats to birds generally, such as climate change, colliding with windows, and so forth. And another is to build capacity for conservationists wherever we work to implement conservation programs. For the Kirtland's Warbler, we're particularly focused on our activities relative to others working on Kirtland's Warblers to sustain this bird following the delisting of the bird, which occurred in 2019. And in particular, the focus is to maintain the Kirtland's Warbler, a human-dependent species, meaning it's dependent on our work and our management of habitat to keep the bird going in perpetuity with an international team so that we prevent extinction, conserve its habitats, eliminate threats to Kirtland's warblers throughout its range, and build capacity throughout its range. The Kirtland's Warbler is a challenge to protect because it breeds in Michigan and Wisconsin, parts of Ontario, but winters in the Bahamas and then migrates in those areas shown in yellow, and particularly stopping over in areas shown in the purple and the magenta. To do this, the American Bird Conservancy has formed a Kirtland's Warbler team. We have a program manager who oversees all of our Kirtland's Warbler work, including all the other Kirtland's Warbler activities I'll mention, and that includes work not only on the breeding grounds in Michigan and Wisconsin and Ontario, but also in the non-breeding habitat, the winter habitat in the Bahamas, as well as in between when the birds are migrating. So it's a kind of a coordinating position requiring expertise and knowledge of the bird throughout the range of the bird from Michigan to the Bahamas. We also have a Kirtland's Warbler Conservation Team coordinator who integrates all the activities of all the people working on Kirtland's Warblers through a Kirtland's Warbler conservation team composed of federal and state agencies, other nonprofit organizations, and individuals, all who are dedicated to sustaining the Kirtland's Warbler. American Bird Conservancy also is recently hired some private lands foresters who will be working on increasing habitat for the Kirtland's Warbler, particularly in Michigan and Wisconsin. We have a development officer who is responsible for raising funds for these programs, including the staff, and in turn, the development officer, along with vice presidents of American Bird Conservancy, work with a Kirtland's Warbler development team, a group of individuals who are dedicated to help raise funds for the Kirtland's Warbler. These include board members of the American Bird Conservancy and other people who are well known to others who can help support the efforts of the Kirtland's Warbler team. Some of the principal supporters of the Kirtland's Warbler efforts of American Bird Conservancy include the Harry A. and Margaret D. Towsley Foundation, the U.S. Forest Service, both Huron-Manistee National Forest, the International Program, and other national forests in Wisconsin and Michigan, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, private donors, including foundations and individuals, and many many other partners, and especially the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. So what is ABC doing to conserve habitat and eliminate threats to the Kirtland's warbler, a species highly vulnerable to alterations of its habitat, it being one of the rarest of all songbirds in North America. So what we are doing to prevent extinction is to include conserving habitat, and one effort is to work with landowners to create habitat on Michigan and Wisconsin breeding areas, and in particular to encourage development of young jack pine forests about 5 to 20 feet tall, which the Kirtland's warblers prefer, on tracts of land near public lands where large amounts of habitat can be created in one block, as Kirtland's warblers will not nest in jack pine under 80 acres and generally not less than several hundred acres in the larger landscape. We also work with landowners to create habitat on the Bahamas wintering areas. The image on the right shows a goat farmer on the Bahamas. And what we are working to do is to encourage goat and sheep farming in enclosed pastures, because Kirtland's warblers are often very abundant on some of those pastures because it supports shrubs, fruit-bearing shrubs that are favored by the Kirtland's warblers. And this presumably is due to a high water table. As the goats require water, water supports the shrubs and the shrubs support the Kirtland's warblers. We're also working with rights-of-way management with the Bahamas Electricity Corporation as we find Kirtland's warblers under the rights-of-ways where some of these fruit-bearing shrubs that the Kirtland's warblers prefer are also found. And at a larger scale, working with other colleagues at American Bird Conservancy, we're keeping an eye out on where wind power is installed. There are certain areas where Kirtland's warblers concentrate during migration, and we think it's not the best policy to put up a lot of wind power installations in those areas, especially as they're coming down and rising from these stopover sites during migration. Similarly, where we know Kirtland's warblers occur along the migration route in relatively large numbers or relatively high abundance, that we want to encourage bird-friendly glass, and some of our colleagues at American Bird Conservancy are working on those issues in cities, particularly where Kirtland's warblers occur during migration. A critical part of our work at American Bird Conservancy, or ABC, is to build teams so that here in the United States, our Kirtland's Warbler Conservation Team Coordinator plays a very important role to ensure that the efforts of US and international organizations are coordinated so they're more efficient, avoid duplication, and focus on the highest priority activities. We're also mentoring our Bahamian colleagues who are doing the work in the Bahamas, and they in turn are mentoring us on some of the socio-political issues we need to consider when we are implementing conservation programs in the Bahamas. So the gentleman on the right, you see, is Scott Johnson, who is collecting some seeds of black torch for a nursery that we hope to establish to grow more of these shrubs that Kirtland's warblers like. Together then, we can strengthen and enhance collaboration between all those working on Kirtland's warblers, which includes literally well over 100 organizations and individuals focused on this species. A very important part of our work is to build financial reserves for the Kirtland's warbler. When the Kirtland's warbler was delisted as an endangered species and taken off the endangered species list, some of the funding sources were lost, so we hope to raise money for an endowment fund that will generate revenue to support Kirtland's warbler activities in the future. So, a summary of what American Bird Conservancy does for the Kirtland's warbler following this delisting period is that basically we consider ourselves, that is ABC, as a catalyst, an implementer, and a supporter of the Kirtland's Warbler Conservation Team, which is a consortium of federal and state agencies, conservation organizations, and interested citizens, where we're striving to fill gaps so that at least 1,300 breeding pairs are sustained indefinitely. Thank you. If you'd like more information about American Bird Conservancy, please check this website and this link, and you can find out more of what we're doing, including some of the articles we published in Kirtland's Warblers and some of the other activities, as well as a wide range of other conservation activities implemented by American Bird Conservancy, including this bird from Brazil.